In this tutorial, what we're going to do is take the screen to GIF tool that we have open right now, and we're going to convert a video that we recorded. So we recorded a procedure and we want to import that into here. So it's going to extract all the frames from the video. You're going to have all the frames in here, and then you can make your animated GIF. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you don't want to import your entire video. So for example, I shot a video. The video itself is probably only about a minute long. So let me open that up. Yeah, so it's only about a minute long. So that minute video at 1920 by 1080, so kind of a standard recording format, that 1 minute long video is 162 megs. When I bring that into this screen to GIF tool and it gets converted, that project becomes 1.7 gigabytes. So that almost gets to a point where it's going to start to consume all of your memory and become unmanageable. And then when I actually output that video without any changes, that 162 megabyte video becomes almost 500 megabyte animated GIF, which is completely impossible to work with your system. So what we want to do is cut down the video. That's the first thing. So I took the video and trimmed it out, and I created a tutorial on how to do that. So I created 4 little videos here. So I cut out a lot of the stuff I didn't need. So I now have 4 separate parts. So if you're shooting a video, shoot it, get just what you need in the video. You don't need a bunch of extra details, and then cut that into smaller pieces and get rid of the stuff you don't need, and then you can work from there. So that's the first step. Don't import your entire video, cut your video down, and then import the smaller video. So what we're going to do here is we're going to import one of those videos first. And to do that, we're going to click on load, find your video. So we'll just take this first one, and we're going to hit open, and that's going to open up the video. Now at this point, we want to trim it. So the key with animated GIFs, especially when you're working with video, is you want to get rid of as much of the distractions and the noise, and just focus on the key steps. I already kind of cut the video down, but what we want to do is figure out, what's the most important part. So I could probably, even though I cut the video here, I don't necessarily need this movement. So I could just start from right here, which is, that's going to cut out quite a few frames. So I'm going to do that here. And then what I'm also going to do is I got to jump in here, and let's see why this isn't playing. There's a reason why it doesn't play here. Okay, there it is. And then I want to get to the end point. So the end point is insert it and then press it down, right? So once it's pressed down, I don't need those extra few frames. So I kind of get it. I'm pressing it down. And so that's probably good enough right there. So I've already taken out quite a bit of information. The other thing you could think about is, already decreasing the scale of this, but we're going to go ahead and bring it in at 100% and just see what we get. And if it's too big, then we can always make it smaller, bringing it in, or make it smaller later. So let's go ahead and hit OK. So what's going to do is it's going to import the frames we want. So we've already cut out a little bit of information, probably, maybe a tenth of that. Right, so now we've got our video. It's going to load up here. So it's importing the frames, which you should see on the bottom. And then once those are in here, we can play this. Now, a couple of things to think about when you're playing the videos. I don't know if you can see this here, but it's doing the 66 milliseconds. So that's the timing for each frame. So you can speed things up or slow them down. We're going to go ahead and hit play and see what we get, and see if that's too fast or too slow. All right, that's probably some stuff we can get rid of there as well. And we press it down, and then we can see, right? So this one, it gets inserted, and then David's fumbling around with it. We probably don't need that fumbling around part. That's some extra information we can get rid of. So for the most part, it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and pause this. And what we're going to do is just out of the gate, we're going to just save it as a default setting and see what we get. Now, we didn't scale it down or anything, and we didn't trim out the frames that we want to trim out yet. So let's go ahead. We're going to hit save as, and I'm just going to find a folder to put that in. All right, so I created a folder here, and we'll call this first one, we'll 01A, we'll just see what that is. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit save, and let's see how big that is. So it's going to go through the process. I don't know if you can see that here. It's encoding it. What it's doing is it's looking for changes from frame to frame. And this is the thing with video. When you transition from one frame to the next, you have every single pixel's changing. And that's why video-based animated GIFs can be really large, just because you have a lot of information. If this was all a solid color and you didn't change all your pixels, then the files were going to be a little bit smaller. But we can see it's kind of going through the process here. I'm going to go ahead and pause this so we don't have to wait through it. All right, and that my screen disappeared, but that ended up being about 56 megabytes, which is way too large for what we want to do. So let's go ahead and figure out how we can make this even smaller. So let's do this. First thing we can do is let's get rid of some of those extra frames, right? So you're just going to come in here, and you can see as you're scrubbing through, you can see the frames. And so I could see right here where David inserts this, right? And if I'm going to use the arrow key, and he's inserting it, and you could see this is going in straight, right? And so then it kind of goes off, and then he's fumbling around with it, and so we don't need that. So let's just say we're going to get rid of that little bit of extra fumbling around, so we can go from here, right? So we'll go from here, so that's frame 38, and so we can get rid of, let's see here, we're going to go and we'll go over to here. So that's 52. So let's just go ahead and get rid of everything that's frame 38, and we'll go to 39, and then we'll go all the way to 52. And every frame counts. We're going to hit those and hit delete. We're going to delete 14 frames. So that's 14 out of 119. So, you know, that's quite a bit. And so that's smaller. So it should be a much smoother thing. So we can see what it looks like, right? Press it down, and let's see what it looks like when it starts over. And it goes in there, and you can really tell there's a little bit of a jump, but that's no big deal. It's an animated GIF. So that looks good. The other thing we can do to make it smaller is we can decrease the size. This was brought in at that 1920 by 1080, way too large for an animated GIF. We were again well over 50 megabytes. We want to bring this down to probably try to get it under 3 megabytes if we can for video. So we're going to go to the image here. You can see you've got some options. One of them is to resize, and it's 1920 by 1080. Let's go ahead and how wide does this really need to be? I'm just going to bring it down to 600 by 338 and see what we get. And I'm going to assume that's going to look okay. And let's see what we have here. And we play it. I can see what's going on. It looks good to me. And you can play around with different sizes, see what works for you. With video, again, you want to try to keep the frame rate down or frame count down. So get rid of all the frames you don't need. And then because there's a lot of movement in here, you're just going to have a lot of pixels changing. So it's just trying to decrease the size of the file any way you can. So this looks pretty good. You could probably even get rid of some stuff at the end if you wanted to. We're going to actually do this just because this is what I would do. Do I need all this extra stuff? I can just start from maybe right here. Insert the video. So that's at frame 29. So I'm going to go from 0 to 28, right? Do I need all that extra movement of, we'll maybe go to 27. We're going to hit delete. So that gets rid of even more frames, right? So let's go ahead and play that. All right, so I get the point. Insert it, press down. And, do I need all that extra pressing down in there as well? So that's where I would go through here. Now you kind of get the point, at what point have you got it with the pressing down, right? So it just depends. We'll keep it. Let's see what we get. Now we're going to go ahead and Come to File again. Let's go ahead and save as. I'm going to save this as B, and let's see how big this is. Go ahead and hit save. It's going to go through the same process. So you can see the first one was 56 megs, and this is going to go through a lot faster. So we went from 56 to 5. That's not too bad, or 6 megs. That's not too bad. We can live with that. That's a manageable size. But as you can see, bring in the video. Video is just going to be large. So you want to get rid of the frames you don't need. That kind of get to the point and make it quickly, right? So get rid of the frames you don't need, and then play around the image size. You know, there might be a point where 10 megs is okay, and then that lets you have a little bit more leeway in terms of what you want to show. You can play around with the size, make it a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. But that's basically it. So then what you would do is just take each one of those clips that you have and save those out as videos, and then bring them in. Now I'll probably bring these down just a little bit smaller so that I want to get them under 3, and then I'll put them into maybe in Rise as a process interaction so you can kind of see how that works. Hopefully this helps.